How to refine a selection in Affinity. Let's get into it. To begin with, we need to make the selection within Affinity. So I'm going to come over to the Object Selection tool and then select the subject within my image. Now, as we can see here, I'm working with a lot of fine strands of hair, which the selection hasn't picked up, but we can use the Refine Selection tool to fix this. To come into the Refine Selection, click on the Refine button at the top here. This is going to open up this box here, and there's a few settings that you can tweak. So at the top here we have Preview, where you can choose between Overlay, Black Matte, White Matte, Black and White and Transparent. When working with hair like this, I do recommend using Overlay because it's easier to see what you're working with. We can then change how this refining affects the edges around the selections that we're making. So you can change the border width, you can change the smoothness, the feather and the ramp. I find that these default settings do tend to work, but you can change it to suit what you need if something isn't quite looking right for you. The key part of this, which is what we're going to use now, is the adjustment brush. There's a few options here: matte, foreground, background and feather. The one that we want to choose is matte, as this is what we're going to be configuring, and it's essentially going to allow us to select more of the hair and deselect the background so that we have a more refined selection over here. One thing you may need to do is come down to this box where there is a number and pixels. This is the size of the brush that we are going to use. For my example, I'm going to use a brush size of 500, but you may need to experiment with this and choose a brush size that's more suitable for what you're going with. To start making changes to this selection, you just have to hover your mouse over the area and start brushing, and a brush will appear. And now if I let go here, we can see that that has brought in more of the hair into the selection and it's removed the background from the selection. So I'm just going to continue going through this to refine the selection. At this point, I do find it's really helpful to come over to the preview and switch into a different mode. Normally I go black matte. When you switch into here, you'll be able to see any areas which might be missing. It seems like I've got a good selection here. However, if there was bits missing here, we can then paint back over these areas just to make sure as many strands as possible are in the selection. Now, as we can see here with this selection, it's brought white edges around the hair. This can be easily fixed by clicking into color decontamination. So if I enable this, we can see it gets rid of those white edges that we're seeing around our hair strands there. Now, once you're happy with your selection, you can still refine it at this point if you need to, but once you're happy, you can go ahead and choose apply on the refining of the image. And once that's done, you'll be left with a much better result than what you would have had just using the regular selection tool. And that's all there is to it.